Good morning. So welcome, everyone. I am the Reverend Meredith Barber, and I am the minister here at Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. We're so glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us here in person or virtually, whether you're here for the first time, or whether you've been here for longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. So this morning we have quite a few things going on, and the first one that I want to share with you is that we have a new artist gracing the walls of our sanctuary. Joe Williams is a watercolor artist and a native Texan who's been painting professionally for almost 40 years. She's been teaching watercolor, painting privately, and doing workshops for about 40 years throughout the Southwest. Here's a little bit from her artist statement. And Joe, if you want to identify yourself if you're here this morning. Hi, Joe, in the little rainbow mask. So here's a little bit from Joe's artist statement. She writes, "As a child growing up in the woods and prairies of North Texas where I continue to live, I spent hours roaming the woods and meadows near my home. The images of big skies, trees, roots, rocks, creeks, leaves, and acorns are all strongly embedded in my psyche. I paint all these subjects as well as all things natural. Even my abstracts are based on natural forms." So Jo will be around after the worship service if you'd like to visit with her, and we're so glad to have her art here this morning. So a couple more things. First, I'd like to remind you that today is the last day to submit names for the Ministerial Search Committee. There's a box outside there. So if you haven't already done so online, please go ahead and do that. Finally, I have one more thing to say. So often I hear people say, I want to do something, I want to feel like I'm making a difference in the world, I want to feel like I'm making a positive change, and I think I have an answer for you. So our kids are in need of RE teachers, and I'll come to you again with this ask in the fall. So we need one teacher in the pre-K and kindergarten class, and we need 2 teachers in the middle school. And I just want to remind everybody that this is good and important and holy work. Our volunteers are already doing so much, so I would love it if we could have some more people help out, share the love around. I think we all know that it takes a village to raise a child. And finally, Carolyn Moore has one last announcement that I think you'll be very excited about.
Good morning. I get to do the fun announcement. I have an announcement that most of you will be happy to hear, I'm sure. Our COVID task force met on Friday, and we're continuing to follow the science as we have done for the last 2 years now. Since we're following the science and the CDC guidelines, I'm happy to report that as of next Sunday, you're welcome to wear masks or not, your choice. Will be mask optional for all activities. Now, as tempting as it may be to rip them off today, let's keep them on for now so that people have an opportunity to make a choice to be in person, masked or unmasked, or live stream in the coming weeks. So that's it. We'll see what happens from here.
I'm Bob Summerlin. I'm your worship associate for today. Awaken to This Gift by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Open the door of your hesitant heart. Let the light shine on all the sleeping shadows. Awaken to this day that offers itself to you to all with a great extravagance. Awaken to this gift, this beauty, this chance that we might still begin again and anew, that we might be changed by the in and out of breath, that we might still burst forth like the crocuses, that we might still surprise this earth with a new song, sung together, calling us all in, and then sending us back out, and know it all as a blessing. Come, let us worship together.
So our chalice lighting words for this morning are just a short little couplet from Rumi. He writes, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep." And with that, I invite you all to join together in saying the words of our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. So I'd like to invite us to rise either in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, I Know This Rose Will Open. All right, folks, so continuing our trend of exciting things that are happening, you may have noticed we have our kids back in the service today. So I'm so happy to welcome our children back. And each Sunday, children in first grade and older will begin in worship with their families. So in just a minute, we'll call the children to come to the front, and they'll sit kind of in the front steps for a story before they go off to their classes if they feel comfortable doing so.
And in the vein of new things starting, we are also restarting our weekly collections for MetroCrest services. That's our charity partner. And I want you to remember, Horizon strives to make a difference in our local community, and one of the ways is by partnering with MetroCrest. So each Sunday going forward, we're going to ask you to purchase shelf-stable food items and also personal care products for MetroCrest's clients. And so what you bring them to church on Sunday, bring them to the sanctuary, and at this time, as we call up the kids, If you have any donations, and several of you do, would you hand them to a young person? And so, young people and the young at heart, we're going to ask you to come up front. Meredith and I, Reverend Meredith and I, are going to be at the pulpit. We're going to ask you to just sit on the floor over there. And if you have donations, would you go ahead and hand them to the young people? So folks, little ones, I'm going to ask you to come up front. I'll show you where to sit.
So hi, friends. I'm up here so that you can hear me in the microphone. Sorry that we're so far away from you. So I'm Reverend Meredith, and some of you guys, I realize, may not know me because I'm usually in here with the grown-ups, and I'm not really in the classes, but I just want to let you know that I'm the minister here at Horizon. I'm here for you and your grown-ups. If there are questions you have about the world, life, things like that, if bad things happen, if good things happen, I'm kind of here for all of that. So I want you to feel like you can talk to me.
Excellent. And so now we're just going to have a quick story, and I'm going to ask Reverend Meredith maybe to echo what the children are saying into the microphone. So I know probably folks at home can't hear me, but we want them to be part of this too. This is called a wonder box, and so you get to wonder what's inside, and Reverend Meredith will repeat your answers. So what do you think's in there? Go ahead.
A ball. Wow, okay. Yeah.
Any other guesses? Go ahead. Balloons.
Balloons? Markers? A cup? Okay, a cup.
All right, so I'm going to show it to you. You can stop guessing that. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. There are two pieces. Let me put my little box on first. Can you tell what it is?
Yes, it's an acorn. For folks that might not be able to see, Lauren got a nice big acorn for us.
Yes, it's an acorn.
So
And, go ahead.
does anybody know what an acorn might turn into? Yes, a big fat oak tree for folks at home. An oak tree. So did you know that an acorn is a seed and all trees grow from seeds? This might seem obvious, not obvious to everyone. Sometimes the seed is an acorn and other trees have their seeds in hidden pine cones or under hard shells like a pecan. Trees are amazing. And so it might be hard to believe that this small acorn can grow into something big and high, right? So it can grow almost as tall as our sanctuary, but trees don't start out tall and mighty. The conditions have to be just right for them to sprout and grow. So what do you think would happen if I placed this seed in like the middle of the parking lot? Thoughts? No, I'm hearing a lot of, would not sprout, maybe wouldn't grow, right? Because the conditions wouldn't be right. There wouldn't be enough water, the pavement would be too hard for the little tree's roots to grow and spread, and there are no nutrients on the pavement for the tree either.
So seeds, like this acorn, need water, sun, fertile soil, and certain temperatures to grow. And trees are so much like us. We also need certain conditions. Just like trees, people also need basics like food, shelter, and water to survive. But we also need some other things that maybe trees don't need. We need things like love, care, community, and support from other people. And that's the way we humans thrive. And by thrive, I mean to grow happier and stronger and reach our full potential. And you know what? That's where the church comes in. It takes more than just this building to help us thrive. Church is a place where we can receive love and support from so many different people and reach our full potential. It takes everyone, you, me, Reverend Meredith, the choir, your families, the congregation, and everyone who works to make Horizon what it is.
So all the people that we talked about this morning, we can kind of think of them as like the fertile soil that helps everyone here to grow, to learn, to find meaning, and to thrive. So we, the people of this congregation, are like the water, sunlight, air, and nutrients. And as we go forward, let us be reminded to support and to nurture one another so that little acorns can indeed grow up to be mighty oaks. So I want to thank you all for being part of our Time for All Ages this morning, and it's time to go to your classes. But I'd also like to invite Saj to come forward. He's going to teach us the song that we're going to sing from now on when you guys leave and go to your classes, okay?
We've sung a song like this before, and it's very similar, but it's slightly different. So we just want to make sure that we hear this new version. Do you want to try it? Yeah. All right. Let's all do it together.
Thank you, everyone. So I believe we have a video now to show from our April Share the Plate partner to tell you a little bit about their work and the folks that will be contributing to. Yes, video, no video. It's okay if we don't.
Dallas has a long history of redlining, environmental racism, and housing discrimination. That is, Black and brown neighborhoods have been zoned to host major polluters and industrial operators. The most recent egregious example is Shingle Mountain, located in a residential community just north of McComas Bluff landfill. Shingle Mountain is a 100,000-ton illegal dump that has disrupted life and caused health issues for the Floral Farms neighborhood residents for almost 3 years. How did Shingle Mountain happen? Could there be another one waiting to form without proactive policies? It happened because of poor land use planning and a lack of environmental oversight. So yes, there could be another Shingle Mountain in the future without intervention. The factors identified in the research by Legal Aid of Northwest Texas are factors that exist in over 50% of southern Dallas. To prevent the next legal or illegal environmental health crisis, Downwinders at Risk partnered with Southern Sector Rising and the Inclusive Communities Project to provide technical assistance and education on how to undo racist zoning in your neighborhood. Addressing racist and dangerous zoning in your neighborhood is an act of self-defense to protect your family and neighbors. The Southern Dallas Self-Defense Project, directed by Downwinders at Risk, Southern Sector Rising, and the Inclusive Communities Project, and sponsored by the Communities Foundation of Texas, partners with neighborhood associations to develop land use plans that write out toxic polluters, enforce fair housing, and center the community's vision for a healthy, safe neighborhood where all can thrive regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. We meet people where they are, whether it is outside someone's front yard, at a recreation center, on Zoom, or by phone. Our goal is to facilitate through grassroots engagement plans for neighborhoods that reflect their life experiences and values. We can provide one-off education events on zoning and land use, or can tailor our full 10-session curriculum to your community's needs, ending with a draft land use vision or plan. The goal is to put neighborhood-driven plans first in the rewrite of the Forward Dallas Land Use Plan, being renewed starting 2020. If your neighborhood association or grassroots community group is interested in working to address racist zoning and land use practices that are negatively impacting your public health, safety, and general welfare, reach out. We can help you through neighborhood planning. We look forward to working together to create a more equitable city that protects you, your family, and your neighbors.
So thank you all so much for showing that video. Our Share the Plate offering this morning, for folks who might not have been able to hear the audio, is for the Southern Dallas Self-Defense Project. And as I think you saw in the video, they work a lot to combat environmental racism. So it's really important to us, especially this month in April, where we're focusing on earth, environment. So our Share the Plate offering will now be joyfully given and received.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the body, gathered here in the strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the body, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the body, gathered here in the struggle and the body, gathered here in the struggle and the body, Spirit, draw. Spirit, draw near.
Reflection from In the Body of the World by Eve Ensler, writing about her mystical experience while in a hospital bed fighting cancer. What I had not anticipated was the tree. I was too weak to think or write or call or even watch a movie. All I could do was stare at the tree, which was the only thing in my view. At first it annoyed me, and I thought I would go mad from boredom. But after the first days and many hours, I began to see the tree. On Tuesday, I meditated on bark. On Friday, the green leaves shimmering in late afternoon light. For hours, I lost myself, my body, my being dissolving into tree. All of this was new. I was raised in America. All value lies in the future, in the dream, in production. There is no present tense. There is no value in what is, only what might be made or exploited from what already exists. Of course, the same was true for me. I had no inherent value. Without work or effort, without making myself into something significant, without proving my worth, I had no right or reason to be here. Life itself was inconsequential unless it led to something. Unless the tree would be wood, would be house, would be table, what value was there to a tree? So to actually lie in my hospital bed and see tree, enter the tree, to find the green life inherent in tree, this was the awakening. Each morning I opened my eyes. I could not wait to focus on tree. I would let the tree take me. Each day it was different, based on the light or wind or rain. The tree was a tonic, a cure, a guru, and a teaching. There was the tree, my tree. Not that I owned it. I had no desire for that. But it had come to be my friend, my point of connection and meditation, my new reason to live. I was not writing or producing or on the phone or making anything happen. I was not contributing much more than my appreciation of tree, my love of green, my commitment to trunk and bark, my celebration of branch, my insane delight over the gentle white May blossoms that were beginning to flower everywhere.
We come now to the time in our worship service that we set aside for meditation and prayer. We'll join in a shared moment of silence, hear the joys and sorrows of our community, share in a spoken prayer, and then join in singing our responsive hymn, Spirit of Life. I invite you to join me now in a moment of silence. We have many joys and sorrows from our community to share this morning. We share in a joy with Eric Plossel, who writes that after almost 2.5 years, he has finished his master's degree. Joy for Eric, we celebrate with him. We hold A.J. McGee and his family in our care and in our hearts as he recovers from a car accident. We are thinking of the family. We share in another joy. The altar flowers this morning are in honor of Bobby and John Meyer's 56th wedding anniversary, which was yesterday, April 2nd. Congratulations. And of course, you all are kind to think of me and share in the joy with me as we celebrate my ordination last weekend and we celebrate together today. Lots of joy. Loving God, Spirit of life, mystery in which we live and move and have our being, draw near to us this morning and hear our prayers. This morning, we give thanks for the chance to gather with others, to share joy and to share pain, to take part in the always needed reminder that we do not move through this life alone, that no matter what, we are not alone. As we move towards spring, a new season, help us to ask and to wonder what in us might need to be reborn or renewed. What in us is beginning to bloom? What in us needs nourishment now? And when or where can we share that nourishment with others? Spirit, some of us have wept this week over the state of our world, or maybe the state of our own lives, maybe both. We have struggled with controlling things that are beyond our power, with anger and frustration at the realization, with sadness for we wish it was otherwise, whatever your it may be this week. This morning, let us breathe into the notion that to awaken, to tune our minds to the gentle nudges, to the calling to love one another, to the call to something we may not understand, that all of this is possible. That to pay attention in a world that would have us do otherwise is radical and holy work. For these things and all those left unspoken in the silence of our hearts, we pray. Amen. I invite you now to rise, either in body or in spirit, and join in singing our responsive hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123. Please be seated. Our second reading this morning comes from the writings of the Reverend Angela Herrera, and it's called Utterance of the Timeless Word. She writes, "You bring yourself before the sacred, before the holy, before what is ultimate and bigger than your lone life, bigger than your worries, bigger than your money problems, bigger than the fight you had with your sister and your aches and pains, bigger even than your whole being, yourself who is part of and trapped within and blessed with a body that does what you want and doesn't do what you want and wants all the wrong things and wants all the right things. You stand at the edge of mystery, at the edge of the deep, with the light streaming at you, and you can't hide anything, not even from yourself when you stand there like that. And then what? Maybe you call your pastor and say, "What is this? What am I looking at? What do I do?" And your pastor comes and stands at the edge with you and looks over. She can't hide anything either, she thinks, not even the fact that she doesn't know the answer to your question. And she wonders if you can tell. She thinks of all the generations who've come there before you and cast words out toward the source of that light, wanting to name it. Somehow, she thinks to herself, the names stayed tethered to the aging world and got old, while the light remains timeless and burns without dimming. Meanwhile, the armful of worries you brought to the edge of mystery have fluttered to your feet. Unobscured by these, you shine back, light emanating unto light. You, with your broken heart and your seeking, you are the utterance of the timeless word. The name of the holy is pronounced through your being. Here ends the reading. Our Soul Matters theme for the month of April is awakening. And I think that there is much in us that is longing to wake up, to re-engage, to open up. In this part of the world, we are, of course, opening to spring, entering a new season, and, though obvious, I think it needs to be said again and again that spring is a time of renewal. New life is beginning around us, and every single year, I feel something in me longing to be reborn, to come back to life, and I don't think I'm the only one. I wonder, what in you is longing to be renewed? I think it can be easy right now to get caught in this cycle of waiting. There are always so many more reasons not to do something than to let yourself free fall into something new. The reasons why not are always easier to remember, whereas the unknown joy that could be ahead is more uncertain, less obvious, because we haven't experienced it yet. It's brand new. For many of us in this community, I have heard again and again that we are waiting to come back to life. We are waiting for our friends to come back to worshiping with us in the sanctuary, for people to resume their previous volunteer roles, for people to continue giving to the church, to take off our masks. And this, I think, is natural. Our world has changed so much over the past few years, and we don't know what lies ahead. We're like kids almost grasping for that next monkey bar, that next ledge. And I think I'm here with the news that the bar we're grasping for doesn't exist. We are free falling into this new reality. For some of us, we engage in magical thinking, in the words of the late Joan Didion. And maybe it's time to come back to reality, because where we are right now, right in this moment, life always has pieces of a miracle for us to behold. It is time this morning to stop waiting and instead to allow ourselves to wake up. So today I'm going to try something a little different. You'll hear wisdom from many sources, more so than usual, all pushing for us to pay attention, to wake up to one thing or another, to the world, to calling, to love for one another. And I'm going to try to make all these people across time and space talk to each other, to tell us something about what it can mean to awaken in every aspect of our lives and our beings. And there's a trend here in all these voices that you'll notice toward the mystical, something hard for those of us who live mostly in our heads to let ourselves understand. And I can be one of those at times. But I invite you this morning to just go with it. So allow the words to wash over you. Cast a wide net as if you're collecting fish or shells. Allow what is meant for you to reach you. So my curiosity around mysticism began in seminary, mostly because of one of my professors. She had this voice, this calming presence. She could have told me to do anything, and I would have said yes. So when I listened to her describe the lives of these mostly medieval people seeking meaning in a bleak reality, despite what I ever would have thought I was in. And the interesting thing is that every major tradition has subsets that trend toward the mystical. We see this with Sufi Muslims, where the term whirling dervish comes from, people who commune with the divine through music and dance, with Kabbalah in Judaism that describes the way an eternal, unchanging force relates to the mortal and finite universe of their creation. We see this with Theravada Buddhism and the focus on liberation from this reality through the stages of enlightenment. We see it in the traditions of indigenous peoples throughout North America and in other places, with the powers ascribed to the four directions, with rituals, each unique within their own tribe, of dance, music, sweat, to commune with a power beyond our understanding. We see this too in Hinduism, the belief that liberation or release comes from spiritual practices. And of course, probably many, many more. Each of these could be their own sermons. My teacher also taught me, and everyone she encountered really, to approach reading, work, life kind of loosely, to let the words wash over you, and that you'll pick up what you're meant to. So the common theme in each of these tidbits is that they focus on awakening, each to a new day, to the wonder of life, to a call that wants to be realized. So much of life is beyond our control, much as we hate to hear that. And I believe that the key to serenity, to happiness, to peace is to learn to tune in to those gentle nudges when they strike. So our first tidbit is my own, written years ago when asked to describe the shape of ministry. It is Sunday morning, around 6:30, and I can hear my mom coming up the stairs. I've just opened my eyes, awakened by the sound of her movements, and I can tell by the way she's tiptoeing up the stairs, trying to be quiet, that she and I are the only ones awake in the house. I'm sure she's been up for a while and is coming from what we always called the library, her home office where she writes. I know she's been working on her sermon. Friday is writing day, and Saturday night is writing time if something has come up, if meetings and appointments have run on too long. But I know that on Sunday morning, I will always find her out in the library going over her words for worship one last time. I try to go back to sleep, but I can't. Like her, I am an early riser by nature. And after a while, I hear the whoosh of her blow dryer and smell the slightly burnt scent of her hot rollers heating up. My mother is softly singing one of her favorite songs. I believe in love, and I live my life accordingly, but I choose to let the mystery be. The words are those of Iris Dement, my mom's favorite singer, whom she refers to simply as Iris, a woman from the Arkansas Delta whose wailing voice carries with it both the pain and also the beauty of her roots. This is spiritual time for my mother. She modeled for me from an early age that the day begins with some time alone to connect to song and story, to ground ourselves. She's out the door before my sister, brother, and I are out of bed. She comes in to say goodbye before heading down the road to church. We arrive later for the 11 o'clock service, almost late, right before the bells ring, calling us to our seats. The organ music begins, and I see my mom slowly moving from pew to pew, greeting everyone, checking in. She kneels down to talk to a little boy who hides behind his father's leg. She makes her way over to us and lays her hand on my dad's shoulder. Good to see you guys, she says, and moves to the next pew. Soon the music stops, and my mom does a little jog from the back of the sanctuary up to the pulpit. The service begins, and soon we are singing together, the reason I come here to this place to worship. When I hear all of our voices joined together, a part of me is lifted. Even as a teenager, the weights of the week feel washed away from my body. The worship service is a dance, in a way. I watch my mom move toward the pulpit and back, toward and back. She moves forward again, this time for her sermon, and she begins with a story. And it was one about me and my family, as was typical when we were younger, and I can't remember what it was about that Sunday. But what I do remember is that watching on that regular Sunday, I felt a pull, almost like a magnet to metal, so powerful, the call to ministry. But there was also fear and doubt, and I couldn't really imagine that reality. And so I cast it out of my mind and didn't tell anyone. I kept it like a secret. I would revisit it from time to time until it became clear that the pull was one I could no longer ignore. So this story tells first of the manifestation of call, my first time allowing myself to awaken to this pull that wouldn't leave me alone. And my point is that awakening, understanding those subtle tugs, require us to be listening. And learning to awaken and to listen takes time. It also means something that this was, in part, a physical, embodied experience. Because as I would soon learn, I was not unique in the slightest. So I have loved this quote that I'm about to share with you for years and years, and it comes from Presbyterian minister and writer Frederick Buechner, who I believe is still living at 95. He lives a bit of a reclusive life at the top of a large mountain in Vermont. It's very Salinger-esque. His voice has always spoken to me, and I hope it will to you and to us, with a kind of grandparent's wisdom that meets a longing deep inside. He writes, "At its heart, I think, religion is mystical. Moses with his flocks in Midian, Buddha under the bow tree, Jesus up to his knees in the waters of Jordan, each of them responds to something for which words like shalom, oneness, God even, are only pallid, alphabetic souvenirs. I have seen things," Aquinas told a friend, "that make all my writings seem like straw. Religion as institution, as ethics, as dogma, all of this comes later and maybe counts for less. Religions start, as Frost said poems do, with a lump in the throat, to put it mildly, or with the bush going up in flames, the rain of flowers, the dove coming down out of the sky." Mysticism, what Buechner is talking about here, is usually described as becoming one with some sort of absolute power, whatever that means to you. It can also be understood as attaining new insight and new truths through various practices. Through history, people have believed that certain kinds of prayer, writing, fasting can help us move to a different reality, to awaken to something new. And a common theme I have always noticed in mysticism is a desire to connect to things that are alive. For some, as a way to seek God, but maybe deeper than that, as a way to feel more alive ourselves. I think we see this best in the reading that Bob read us earlier from Eve Ensler's book, In the Body of the World. She writes of the physical and mental weakness of her cancer and her experience of recovering in a hospital room, too weak to do anything, as we heard, but to stare at the tree, noticing every detail, from the intricacies of its bark to its glittering leaves. To me, this clinging to the tree, conscious or not, indicates a vitality, an attachment to the details of life, a refusal to let it go. In this way, she describes becoming one with the tree and also letting go of some of the notion that our lives are measured only by what we do rather than who we are. John O'Donohue, Irish poet and former priest, wrote, "We live between the act of awakening and the act of surrender. Each morning we awaken to the light and the invitation to a new day in the world of time. Each night we surrender to the dark to be taken to play in the world of dreams, where time is no more. At birth we were awakened and emerged to become visible in the world. At death we will surrender again to the dark, to become invisible. Awakening and surrender. They frame each day and each life. Between them, the journey where anything can happen, the beauty and the frailty." Ensler is not the only one whose mystical experience began with a tree. In fact, I find that so much of mysticism begins there. We have, of course, the story of Buddha, which I think you'll hear a little bit about next week from Horizon players. But in seminary, I learned about Marguerite Oint, a French Carthusian nun and mystic, one of the earliest known female writers in France. In Marguerite's writing, she describes a woman absolutely captivated by the word vehement, so much so that she asks many people what they think this word means. No one can answer to her satisfaction. She prays on it and she feels it written on her heart and asks God to show her what it means. And before the woman can finish praying, she's transported to the middle of a field. The only thing around her is a high mountain, and at the foot of the mountain lies a large tree with its branches bending down, dry and withered. And each tree, on its branches and leaves, bears one of the 5 senses written on it: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch. The tree Marguerite writes of is covered by a large circle so that no sun or rain may fall on it. And once the woman has taken it into her sight, she raises her gaze to the mountain. Suddenly, flowing off of the mountain is a large stream, rushing with the force of an ocean. And as the water rushes to the bottom of the tree, it's so powerful that the tree is turned upside down. And the top of the tree is in the ground, while the roots stretch up toward the sky. Where it had been dry before, its branches are now green. So the woman in this story, I think we can understand to be Marguerite, or at least that's the way I've always thought about it, a woman captivated by words. And to me, this story is so much less about God, but more about the way you can be turned upside down just by paying attention, by focusing on some sort of deep contemplative practice. And this story is weird. There's no way around it. I've thought that since the first time I heard it. And I also love it. To actually pay attention, to awaken, and live mindfully in our society is to be open to something that seems beyond the realm of possibility, and that's also weird. It goes against everything our bodies and our minds tell us, everything our culture tells us about how to live a productive life, about what it means to live well. As the poet David Whyte writes in his work, What to Remember When Waking, in that first hardly noticed moment in which you wake, there is a small opening into the new day. Now, looking through the slanting light of the morning window toward the mountain presence of everything that can be what urgency calls you to your one love. What shape waits in the seed of you to grow and spread its branches? Just like the tiny acorn in the story Lauren and I shared earlier, there is something within each of us that is longing to grow. There is a call inside each of us, nudging us onward, but we don't go it alone. I took vows last week at my ordination that I wrote myself, and one of them was not to try to do this, ministry or life, all alone. The same is true, I think, with the shape that waits in the seed of you to grow and spread its branches. We do not awaken. We do not grow and change and open ourselves to the mystical in life alone. It takes the love of others around us. Thomas Merton, Trappist monk and famed writer, wrote of his awakening to this idea as a mystical experience. One day in 1958 in downtown Louisville, running errands, a sudden realization hit him. He later wrote in his work, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander, I was suddenly overwhelmed by the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of self-isolation in a special world. This sense of liberation was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud. This realization Merton had that he called a mystical experience led to a change in his life trajectory. After World War II, like many others, Merton felt a loss of hope, a loss of faith in humanity. And this is part of what led him to Kentucky and to his life as a monk. This overwhelming love for humanity led him to a much greater involvement in the justice issues of his time. From his abbey in Kentucky, he wrote words of encouragement to leaders and justice movements around the world. But it all began with love, in the realization that none of us can go it alone. So as we close this morning, my thoughts return to that morning, half a lifetime ago now, feeling for the first time that inward tug, that little voice in the silence that brought me here to this place. And I wonder, what would have happened had I not been willing to listen? Had I not been awake? Had I not been open to something I could not fully understand? And I wonder for all of you, how in this time and place you might need to awaken. What might be calling to you from somewhere beyond our understanding? May it be so. Amen. So I invite us to rise, either in body or in spirit, and join in singing our closing hymn, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky.
Please join me in reciting our mission and our vision: to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, serve courageously. We envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world.
Are you coming up, Carol? Okay.
I'm going to get used to this sooner or later. Y'all can sit down if you'd like to. We don't have to stand for this whole part. So today we're celebrating something special. As you may or may not be aware, ordination is an important, exciting event in the life of a UU minister. and is one of the most important traditions of our faith. Unlike other religious denominations that practice group ordinations, Unitarian Universalism ordination services affirm and celebrate an individual person's ministry. It's a powerful rite that connects the ordained to both the long line of professional ministers who have come before and to their commitment to live a life of service to our UU tradition. Ordination into the UU ministry is solely at the discretion of congregations. A congregation's decision to ordain someone represents the congregation's faith in and support for this person's ministry. It serves as a rite of initiation, taking an ordinand from their status as layperson and initiating them into the community of clergy. The act of ordination confers that mantle of ministry and also allows the minister to use the title of reverend. Last week, as you've heard today, our own interim minister traveled to Tennessee to be ordained by the congregation of First Unitarian Church of Memphis, also known as Church of the River, the church where she interned. Meredith said it was a wonderful celebration, and we at Horizon are very happy for you. So, speaking on behalf of the congregation and staff of Horizon, I'd like to take this opportunity to offer our best wishes and congratulations to Reverend Meredith Barber. So, we have some gifts. So let me go find them. Just a minute. So we have this lovely plant. This gift was made by Andrea Dodds, who's a member of this church, to officially welcome you to the UU ministry and to Horizon. Andrea is a member of Horizon, but she's out of town this week, so I'm hoping she's watching the live stream today. So here you go. We're going to make you open it in front of everybody.
Wow.
She has to have a wardrobe of stoles, so this is another one. And Andrea
Beautiful.
made this.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, everyone.
Do you want to say a few words, or are you at a loss?
Mostly, I just want to say thank you. Yeah. We said last week that the stole represents the heavy weight of ministry, but also the joy. So thank you for sharing in that.
And I think after the benediction, we'll adjourn for food and frivolity in the labyrinth. Congratulations.
Thank you.